Hey everybody, hope your day is going well. You're back with another reaction. We're going to check out a video of the Music Mongoose YouTube channel. Link to the original is in the description. This is a video about the most fun Lennon and McCartney ever had recording a song. And I just reacted to that song because a patron of mine shared these and I wanted to check out the song first. That's on the Music Reaction channel. And it was a hoot. It was a fun time listening to it. They were having fun with it. You could hear that in the recording, and maybe I didn't even mention this in the music reaction itself, but you kind of could hear their smile in the singing even, huh? And even when they're having fun and being silly, it's still the Beatles. It's still like it's still good and better than a lot of the stuff out there. So it's kind of wild. And I hear they had a great time doing this, and I wanted to check out a little bit of this backstory. So yeah, let's go. The song was "You Know My Name." Look up the number. Let's
And
go.
McCartney pairing created some of the most recognisable tunes of the 20th century, but there is one slightly silly, slightly Monty
Slightly.
Python-esque song that often gets forgotten.
That's a great description.
In 1988, McCartney unexpectedly said, "You Know My Name, Look Up the Number," was his favourite Beatles track, simply because it was so insane. This recording could be the most fun John Lennon and Paul McCartney had in a studio together. It was May 1967, just before the release of Sgt. Pepper. Lennon arrived at a recording session inspired by a London telephone directory he had spotted in Paul McCartney's house. On the front cover of this directory was the slogan, "You have their name, look up their number." I was waiting for him.
I knew it had something to do with a phone book, but I didn't know that line was actually on it. Just he changed the person to okay, so he changed the "You Know My Name." That is hilarious. See, inspiration can come from anywhere. Yeah, I said that during the reaction. I would love to be a fly on the wall. Oh, these guys
Their number.
crack me up.
I was waiting for him in his house and I saw the phone book was on the piano with "You Know the Name, Look Up the Number." That was like a logo and I just changed it. It was going to be a Four Tops kind of song. The chord changes are like that, but it never developed, and we made a joke of it. Lennon brought the slogan to the session initially as a sort of 15-minute chant, almost like a mantra. And instead of dismissing it, as let's be honest, most of us probably would if our mate rocked up with a 15-minute mantra from a phone book, McCartney actually got to work on it. The track had 5 slightly bizarre sections. The first part might fool you into thinking it's just a classic Beatles song. It's a simple chord progression with Lennon and McCartney chanting this mantra over and over again. By the way, I should say, the annoying YouTube copyright robots won't let me play too much of the music on these videos, but if you want the full experience, take a look at my Patreon page where I upload longer videos with more of the music. That's patreon.com/musicmongoose. Now, in the next section, they switch to ska, again repeating the same mantra. And this sudden...
Yeah, right. I even forgot about that part because there were so many things going on, and by the end, I already forgot about that part that sounded like that. I thought it had like a reggae vibe, so that's more like ska. Okay.
Change in genre sort of foreshadows the fun they're about to have with this track. Section 3 seems to take place in some sort of fictional nightclub. John Lennon...
Yeah, he was like doing almost an impression. That was fun that, first of all, John like announced it almost like Sgt. Pepper, like the opening track maybe. And then Paul is doing like this, singer in a smoky room type impression.
Introduces it with the line, "Good evening and welcome to Slaggers," featuring Dennis O'Bell. What a great name for a nightclub, by the way. And who is Dennis O'Bell, you ask? Well, it's none other than Paul McCartney.
The shoe just dropped while I was watching this video, and then I was thinking, oh yeah, I asked that question in my reaction. Oh, I already anticipate some comments. And it just dawned on me. Like, yeah, that's just the fictional name for Paul's character in the song.
He takes on this role
Where does
of
it
a
come from
lounge
then?
singer, and the name is thought to be inspired by film producer Dennis O'Dell, who had
Ah,
worked on A Hard Day's
okay.
Night.
Okay. Makes sense. I love it.
Funnily enough, when the track was eventually released, O'Dell suddenly started to get inundated with phone calls from Beatles fans
No
who had taken the
way!
mantra a little too seriously. There were so many of them, my wife started going out of her mind. Neither of us
No
knew
way,
why
dude.
this was suddenly happening. Then
I said that like Lennon and some of the Beatles, they were like trolls before that existed, right, on the internet and stuff. That's exactly what happened here. Now he's getting calls of people, in the middle of the night, my name. No, man, oh, this poor guy. That's hilarious. I would love to have one of the Beatles have do your answering machine or voicemail message, right? You know what time it is.
suddenly happening. Then I happened to be in one Sunday and picked up the phone myself. It was someone on LSD calling from a candle making factory in
How do
Philadelphia.
you know he was on LSD?
And they just kept saying, "We know your name, and now we've got your number." That
that's
sounds
scary.
terrifying, doesn't it? It was only when Ringo Starr later showed him the song that he then understood why this was happening.
Still
As
scary,
hilarious as that is to think about today, I'm sure it wasn't very fun for
No
O'Dell
way.
and his wife at the time.
Oh my.
The fourth section is possibly the weirdest. Now, it contains a mix of cuckoo noises, silly voices, bongos, and many more intriguing sound effects.
They are a cuckoo.
You can tell just by listening to it how much fun they
Yeah.
had recording this
You
song.
can hear that.
It almost takes you back to that schoolboy sense of humour you might expect from teenagers, not established rock stars.
Exactly.
Now, the final
Love it.
section of the song gets nice and jazzy, and they actually enlisted the help of Rolling Stones member Brian Jones to come and play with them in one of these recording sessions. He apparently rocked up to the session wearing an Afghan coat and looking a bit nervous. But what he ended up doing in this session surprised everyone. McCartney assumed, as you would, that Jones would bring along a guitar. Instead, he opted for a different instrument. I thought it would be a fun idea to have him, and I naturally thought he'd bring a guitar along to a Beatles session, and maybe chung along and do some nice rhythm guitar or a little bit of electric 12-string or something. But to our surprise, he brought his saxophone. He was a really ropey sax player, so I thought, aha, we've got just the tune. Jones provided a jazzy saxophone solo, and thus the final section was born. Unfortunately, Brian Jones didn't live to see the release of this song. Now, the overall joy of this track is that it never pretends to be anything else. It is incredibly silly, and Lennon and McCartney very clearly had a lot of fun with it. The different layers to it, though, shows how seriously they took this comedy project. All four Beatles took part in the first three recording sessions in May and June of 1967, and then Brian Jones and his saxophone solo was recorded in the fourth session. But after that, the song was sort of abandoned for a bit, and it wasn't until April 1969 that the track was revisited. In this session, Lennon and McCartney laid down all the vocal tracks and added some additional sound effects. Perhaps the essential stuff like, I don't know, more cuckoo noises. And just generally tied up any loose ends that the song had. George Harrison and Ringo Starr weren't in attendance for this one. Finally, after a few long recording sessions, the track was complete. However, it still wasn't released until a year later. Now, interestingly, this song initially wasn't meant to be released as a Beatles song, despite featuring all four members of the Beatles. Instead, John Lennon wanted it released as a Plastic Ono Band song. It even got to the point where Lennon edited You Know My Name to a more single-friendly 4 minutes and 21 seconds, and the single was issued an Apple catalogue number and a release date under the Plastic Ono Band for December that year. However, this record release was eventually cancelled, and with it, the hope of blessing everyone's ears with the madness of You Know My Name. Not to be deterred, though, the track did find a new home on the B-side of the single Let It Be in March.
It just dawned on me now that I listened to it. I listened to a bit of the backstory. Like, you have this profound song, "Let It Be," main, and that meant so much to many people, so powerful. And then you put that as a B side, which is kind of can be the purpose of a B side, right? To experiment. Uh, Different artists do different things with their B side singles. Some B sides are even better than A sides. And I really, it's just that is kind of legendary, man. Just let it be. That's the single, and then we have that one. Is this still to be found somewhere, like in a hard copy? The single, man. I've been thinking about getting into collecting some of this stuff, man. Damn, that'd be
1970.
cool.
And amazingly, on those pressings, the original plastic Ono band catalogue number is still visible. It's just
Mm.
scratched out. Now, the legacy
Now
of
that's a
this track
collectible right
is
there.
quite refreshing in Beatles history. It came at a time when Lennon and McCartney weren't exactly getting along so well. So this track allowed them to have a bit of fun together again, like the good old days. Two friends recording a song and figuring out how to get the weirdest sound effects possible into it. Sound effects like Mal Evans digging gravel with a shovel. No, seriously. We had these
Mal Evans
endless,
has some of
crazy,
those, huh?
fun sessions, and
Alarm
eventually we
clocks and
pulled it
stuff.
all together and we just did a skit. Mal and his gravel. I can still see Mal digging the gravel, and it was just so hilarious to put that record together. It's not a great melody or anything, it's just unique. I love the idea.
I've read Mal's book, uh, his story, and that his son then later released long after Mal Evans passed away. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Great story if you haven't read it yet.
Yeah, that when Paul McCartney looks back to his days recording with John Lennon, he thinks of the sessions for this song. No arguing, no obsessing over every detail, no tension.
Having
Just
fun,
having a laugh with his
right?
mate, creating an utterly ridiculous song. The complete opposite to the sessions for Obladi Oblada. That one got very intense. It even
I
made
haven't
John
heard
Lennon
that one yet.
storm out in anger. I've made a
Really?
full video on that one. Click over there for that one next.
All right, we're gonna revisit that video after I heard the song, which I believe that one is on the White Album, the Beatles album. So yeah, I'm gonna start that journey very soon on Patreon. So yeah, be on the lookout for that. This was very interesting. We learned a few things. Love how he broke those sections down and gave us a little bit of the backstory on the recording sessions and the four sessions as well, where they recorded different things and then finished it up much later. Cool. Thank you for being here. Have a wonderful day. Goodbye.